our research had the objective of collecting information about the comic book market in Europe, of course, and also assessing the degree of digitization of this market, because then we want to help publishers step up their digital game. And this input will be instrumental to build the tools, the training tools that will come later on in the project. How did we do that? For the time being, we have administered quantitative questionnaires to find out about the size of the markets. Our partners in focus countries, Italy, Poland, Spain, and of course France, where Izneo stems from, have taken care of that. And then we have also administered the questionnaire to all of FEP members, so another 20 odd countries. And we have also prepared a qualitative questionnaire, which we are administering to a number of individual publishers from all over Europe through interviews. I'll give you some preliminary results. First of all, really an overview of the responses. Of course, we have gathering detailed information from the focus countries, again, France, Italy, Poland, and Spain. And we have been able to gather also comprehensive information from other major markets for comic books, that is Belgium and Germany. And then we have found a little information about, as I said, another almost 20 countries from our membership. And first of all, we have figured out, maybe for you it won't come as a surprise, that the comic book market is significant, but only in a limited number of territories and countries. Detailed information on comic book sales, and especially in digital, is very difficult to find. This is no exception. Also, information on digital sales of books in general is difficult to find. Comic books publishing is, to an extent, a niche sector, and often it has relatively weaker links with the rest of the sector, also in association terms. So sometimes comic publishers are not necessarily members of national associations, which makes it a bit more difficult for us to reach out to them. And in most cases, the digital penetration in the sector is very low. So it's confirmed that there is a need for some support to step up the digital game. Going a bit more into the substance of what we find out from the quantitative point of view, data from the main markets we surveyed show that the big markets, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, produce some 3,000–4,000 new comic titles per year. Here we're talking print, with France coming on top of the ranking. Mid-size markets such as Belgium and Poland have 1,000 to 2,000 titles per year, with Belgium, since it's a relatively small country, punching above its weight in terms of number of titles. There are between 100 and 400 comic book publishers in most of these major markets. Again, France is the one that has the most. Few publishers in Spain, less than 50, even though the production is comparable to other large markets. Poland also has less than 50, and Belgium has 75. Again, a large number compared to the size of the country. Turnover, in most cases, in the large markets where comics are relevant, they represent 2 to 6% of publishers' sales. But there are notable exceptions. In France, comic books represent 15% of the market, and in French-speaking Belgium, comic books make up 1/3 of publishing revenues. This doesn't mean 1/3 of all books sold in the country, but it's 1/3 of the revenue of French-speaking Belgian publishers. Average prices range between 7.5 and 15 euros, but there is no clear link between the average price and the country's income. And digital catalogs, the situation is very varied. There are between a few and several thousand titles available in Italy, Spain, Germany, also in Belgium. But there are more than 20,000 digital titles available already on the French market, whereas there are very few for the time being in Poland. More on the quantitative side for other markets, then we'll see later the detail country by country. But overall, we've seen, again, that in terms of production, very little information is available, likely hundreds of titles per year. At best, publishers are often very few. In some countries, there are barely any comic book publishers. Turnover is a very small share of the market. In most cases, already Luke told us it's less than 2%, although there are a few exceptions. The market is a niche market, mostly based on imported titles, and the level of digitization is very low. Digital presence, so a few results from the qualitative questionnaires. Digital presence and strategy of the publishers we have interviewed. They do all have a digital presence. They all are very well aware that you need digital for example, marketing, but not many of them do sell digital products. They do, in most cases, intend to go digital. They see the digital market as an opportunity, but they all say that they want to wait until the conditions are right. So they have all in all a positive but cautious attitude towards digital, and the purely digital option, so going for only publishing digital titles, is not seen for the time being as viable by many comic books publishers who are not already doing it, of course. We have asked about challenges and opportunities of going digital, and the challenges they have identified. First of all, there is the perception that readers have of comic books are very much attached to paper. They see themselves as collectors, so they want very much to own a print copy of their favorite comics. Obviously, piracy won't be a surprise for anyone here, is seen as an extremely difficult challenge to tackle, because of course competing against an offer that is for free on digital is extremely difficult for anyone. Publishers do want to, well, remunerate authors and sustain their business, and competing with offers for free is extremely tough. There is a need to find the best business models when you go digital, because there are obviously differences from the physical domain. And there is also, for some, the awareness of a risk of placing your digital product wrongly. So you have to really know what you want to do with your digital media when you publish comics. And then webtoons that Luke already mentioned have been perceived already by several publishers that we interviewed as a potential, well, say, threat to their market, because there are very aggressive policies of conquering European markets on behalf, for example, in this case, of Korean publishers. And still, many people we interviewed see digital as an opportunity. They would really like to take up this opportunity, but they need to have the right conditions. Therefore, there is definitely an interest in a dedicated platform if it were available. We've been told that they would like it to be accessible, fair, effective, and supportive from a technological point of view. Why? Because one thing that everyone basically agrees on is that in order to go digital, you need investments. It's really not true that going digital is as easy as creating a file and putting it out there. That's maybe what a pirate can do, but a professional publisher that wants to build a sustainable business and remunerate his or her authors also from digital sales needs a solid plan and needs strong investments. So any support from that point of view will be welcomed by the publishers that we have interviewed. So with this, I'll just make another few concluding remarks again that we see from our preliminary survey. We have seen that we have difficulties in finding data and also in comparing different countries, because not everyone measures things the same way. We do plan to continue our effort throughout the project. So the survey is not over, and we absolutely welcome input from all interested stakeholders. So all of you that are here today, also spread the word. This project is going to go on for more than for a year and a half now. We are interested in all kinds of information. You'll see later on the presentations on individual countries. If you see your country up there and you think you have more information or better information, we are happy to hear from you. What we know for the time being, just a brief summary, and then give the word back to Thierry, is that the digital market for comics is very small. But it means that there is a huge opportunity for growth if the demand is there. And there is definitely a large untapped potential. And there is at the same time potential for our platform to provide support for all publishers in taking advantage, tapping this kind of potential. And also from the, let's say, the push side, there is a clear and present danger, a risk that non-European platforms and players will fill the void that currently is present in digital distribution of comics in Europe. So this is also an invitation to all of you to get active, get ready, step up your digital game, because digital comics, one way or another, are coming. And if they don't come from Europe, they might come from the US or Asia.
Hello and welcome to Dizzy Learning. Dizzy Learning module aims to provide a toolkit to launch and develop a digital comic portfolio. Building a digital comic catalog is interesting for several reasons. First of all, digital helps to reach new and varied audiences. Digital comics are attractive not only to traditional comic readers, but also to digital content consumers, who tend to be younger and more digitalized. Secondly, digital has already taken over a significant part of the largest comic markets. For example, in Japan, 55% of manga revenues come from digital. In Korea, the amount is already 50%. In the US, digital comics amount for 9% of the total revenue. The expectation is that, at some point, Europe will also follow this trend. Thirdly, digital sales help grow in print as they help to capitalize marketing efforts and allow for a cheaper discovery. Finally, the distribution costs of digital comics are low and allow to sell backlist titles that may no longer be available in print. The first thing to be checked is the extent of the available digital catalog. In this regard, an inventory needs to be done with regards to the number of titles for which the digital rights are already available, and the number of digitalized volumes. By digitalized volumes, we mean the number of comics already available in PDF or JPEG format. Another point to consider is the territorial scope of digital rights. The scope of these rights is specified in the main contract and determines where the publisher can sell the comic. As an example, the rights can cover the whole world or be country-specific. Once the size of the digital catalog has been determined, it is vital to establish a release schedule to avoid releasing all the titles simultaneously. This step allows making comics available to the audience at the most appropriate moment while maintaining attention over time. What's the best way to plan a release schedule? There's some information on release schedule planning that should be taken into account. When it comes to the backlist, there may be part of the backlist that is already digitalized. If that is the case, the initial release of many titles can provide visibility on the publisher's digital catalog from the very beginning. Additionally, on a general basis, it is better to launch all the volumes and chapters included in one series at once, as this helps to capitalize on marketing efforts. For the non-digitalized backlist, the digitalization process can be planned according to a release schedule. In these regards, it is important to consider three aspects. First of all, some public institutions are interested in the digitalization of books catalogs and provide monetary support to publishers. It is important to check one's eligibility for this kind of help. Secondly, there are always events and possible future trends that could match with the comics topics. As an example, this could be Christmas or upcoming movie series. Thirdly, it might be interesting to group similar topics. For example, it could be a good idea to issue at the same time science fiction digital titles or romance. When it comes to already digitalized new releases, when possible, the best is to release all the existing versions simultaneously. On one hand, this allows to capitalize promotion efforts. Releasing digital comics simultaneously with print allows getting the maximum audience attention. Same happens with translations. Many times, translated print copies are not available at the same time as the original copies. In those cases, if the digital translation is already available, it is interesting to release the digital translation simultaneously as the original. This digital release provides several benefits. First of all, it reduces and prevents piracy. Secondly, some of the digital readers will still be interested in collecting the print copy afterwards. For example, the last chapter of Attack on Titan, which was released digitally, had a tremendous success. Still, this digital success has not prevented the printed volume from getting a lot of attention on sales. Digital allows adapting one's offer to different budgets. In this regard, digital comics can be read after buying them individually or as part of a subscription. When it comes to single purchase, the user gets permanent access to the volume as long as the platform exists. With regards to subscription formats, they provide access to many titles in exchange for a fixed amount, generally paid every month. Titles are usually only available to the user while he pays for the subscription. In these regards, users do not own the titles. This kind of option makes sense when the user can access a large amount of content for a reduced price. Therefore, subscriptions should generally grant access to varied content and different publishers. Digital also allows for selling a volume also by chapter. This option allows prospect users to check whether they like the story before buying the entire volume, while it also encourages trying out digital. Digital also allows to provide free volumes. This can be interesting for all backlist titles. If the titles are part of a long series, providing the first volume for free can attract new readers. The extent of the available business options depends on the platform where the books are sold. The available channels are going to be described in Module 3 of this e-learning series.
I would name 3 reasons for that, I think. Firstly, it's in demand. At least our readers here in Germany were asking for digital editions of comic books constantly, and a lot of them still are. And so obviously there is a demand for digital entertainment and digital media, and comic books are supposed to be a part of that too. Secondly, availability. It makes it a lot easier to keep a large portion of your portfolio in stock, in digital stock, so to speak. If you're struggling to keep books in print, or if you're just not willing to do that for all eternity, then that's an elegant solution to keep your books available to large portions of readers. And thirdly, it's really easy nowadays to digitalize your comic book catalog, especially if you have good partners to do that in distribution and manufacturing. The only real issue that we had was finding the right balance between file size and readability of the books. So the digital editions we use at Splitter are made from the print files of our comic books. So of course we cannot upload just the print PDFs onto the web. We have to compress them somehow. And striking a balance between clearness of picture and brilliance of color, etc., as well as file size, so the web shops wouldn't complain that the files that we provide them with are too large, was a bit tricky at first, but after some experimentation and a couple trial and error runs, we're really happy with the result right now. And now that we've found the correct settings and the correct program to use, it's really easy and basically not an issue at all anymore. 3 recommendations that I would have for a publisher are, firstly, establish a workflow as soon as possible. Find the correct programs you want to use, find the correct settings you want to use, find a schedule in which you want to upload, set all the media data for your digital books as soon as possible, so you just have to adhere to the schedule and can regularly supply your distributors with new comic books. Because just as in print, the digital comic book market lives by this regularity with which you can provide new content. Secondly, and that plays into the first one a little bit, try to find popular and, in an optimal case, long-running series that your readers already love, because those are easier to market and to find readers for, especially by word of mouth, than for something that's completely new and with which you have no experience. And thirdly, give some thought to the pricing. At least here in Germany, ebooks are not super popular because a lot of publishers are not willing to give discounts on the books that are in any way significant. So as a customer, I'm often not willing to pay just €1 or €2 less for the digital copy if I can have the hardback copy for €2 more. So we at Splitter decided to go halfsies, so to speak, and have our e-comics cost roughly half the amount as the printed copies. And both our readers and we are very happy with that because it's a fair discount for something that you can't hold in your hand, we think, and our readers agree. And also it leaves us with enough wriggle room to give some discounts for special occasions and also make some money with our ebooks.
Thanks for your attention and interest during this module. Would you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us.